Did the morning get a little less crazy?
No, not at all. I'm here though right now in one of the um, one of the rooms that we use to treat people. That's just one of the chairs, and we just darken the lights, put a little night sky on, and maybe something a little bit relaxing on the TV, and that's it. Pretty simple. But we have a woman going through oxy detox right now in the back room. She's on day 3, so she should be at the worst right now. And she's I'm about to post the video. She's as happy as could be.
Really?
I
Okay.
remember those days myself.
Slept all night.
Wow.
Day 3. Yeah. So last night on day 2, she slept all night.
That's interesting. See, and that's something we'll obviously get into it, but that's something I'm curious about because I understand how NAD works and how like ketamine works and everything, but just the fact that it can completely rewrite everything in your brain is crazy to me.
I had no idea about any of this. And I don't know if you know the genesis of this, but where it came from. I mean, me and Dr. Leung were already working together. I previously owned Ibogaine Aftercare. And then he was the first doctor to start doing ketamine infusions. Me, myself, in my recovery, I work with psychedelics. I have no problem saying that. That's helped me. And maybe twice a year, I'll do something, and it's bufo toad. And about 4.5 years ago, I did it. And it told me to tell the doctor about this combination of medicines. I came out of the trip, I called him, and next thing you know, he was down in Louisiana learning everything about NADplus. He came back, I guinea pigged it, and we've been doing it for 4 years now.
How is bufo toad? Because I've heard a lot of things about that. That's what Mike Tyson likes to do.
It's the only one I like working with now, just because it's a quick 15 minutes and boom, you're reset,
Wow.
Sometimes when I have like very, very difficult patients that might have some really, really negative type energy on them, I hate talking that foo-foo talk, but it's just like, it's a reality.
Yeah.
So sometimes, though, you're left very, very drained, and all it takes is 15 minutes of bufo, and I'm snapped out of it, and brand new person again.
Tell us a little bit about your life and where everything started with your addiction and everything, and then we'll get into recovery, then the NAD plus and all that stuff.
I was a late bloomer. I sold a lot of marijuana during college. But I never got into drugs. I was always that guy that kind of pulled his friends out of it. And then right around the age of 26 or 27, I think it was, I tried heroin for the first time. And I really, really liked it. Something clicked,
What made you go right to heroin? Like, was there steps in between, or did you just say, F it?
No, I knew what opiates felt like.
Okay.
When I had opiates in the hospital, I like 7 years prior to that, I would kept on saying to myself, like, holy shit, I am going to be a junkie. Like, I hate using that word, but that's what I kept on saying to myself over and over. Like, I'm screwed. I can never ever touch opiates. They feel too good for me. But then, 6 years later, 7 years later, whatever it was, you kind of let down that guard. And a famous band that I was friends with in Boston was doing it at that time. And I just asked to try a little bit. I was like, oh, what the hell? I want to relax too. So I just did like a little bit, and then I promised myself I would do it once a month. And then it was like once a week, and then just like after certain DJ gigs, I was like, because I used to DJ, I was like, okay, I'll do it then. And then all of a sudden one day, about a year later, I woke up and I was calling my mom, of course, tough guy over here. Mom, I think I think I have the flu, I think I have real bad flu. Oh, don't worry, I'll make up some chicken soup for you now. And then I called my other friend, who was another DJ, and I'm like, bro, oh my God, I got the really bad flu. And he's like, no, you don't. He's like, I'll be right over. And that's the first day that I realized that I was physically hooked. And I don't want to be physically hooked. So I went to rehab right away. They told me, go to AA for the rest of your life. And I'm like, okay, no problem, And as soon as I got home, I used, like I didn't even get a chance to go to a meeting or anything like that. Just as soon as I get home, I'm like, what do I do now? So I kept on using. So 30 rehabs later, and I'm not joking, like about 30 rehabs I ended up going to because I was that guy that just didn't get the message. Also, there was something I didn't really like about AA in the beginning. It just didn't click with me. And, I wasn't religious. I didn't believe in anything at that time. And when I was told to pray to a doorknob, I was like, oh my God, I am in Cuckooville. But it didn't matter. I would do anything at that point. Like you tell me to do something and I would have done it. At that point, I didn't care. I was like, just get me through this. And it didn't matter what I did or what rehab I did or what medication I got on or anything like that. I kept trying to numb myself without knowing why. So finally, after years and years, this went on for about 17 years. And I was on Suboxone, and I was on probably my 30th, I lost count, maybe 30th rehab trip, and I didn't want to go through Suboxone detox again. So that's when the first time I thought of unaliving, and I was looking it up on the computer, exactly how to do it correctly. And that's when I saw a Vice episode about Ibogaine at the same time that I was Googling. And I was like, this isn't a coincidence, and I changed my search up to Ibogaine, and I called the clinic the next day. They told me it was going to be 10,000, and I'm like, oh my God. And then he started Googling who I was. Not that I'm anybody special, but I'm a semi-famous DJ here in Las Vegas, plus nephew to somebody who's very, very famous. So the Ibogaine clinic saw that, and they were like, this guy can, bring people down here if it works for him.
Right.
And so he said, can you afford a plane ticket? And I said, yeah. And 3 weeks later, I was down in Mexico because I had to switch from Suboxone to a short-acting opiate. Short-acting opiate was heroin. I guess I can say it, whatever. That's my story. And so I switched to heroin for 3 weeks. I went down. I did Ibogaine. I was definitely scared shitless. I hadn't done a psychedelic in 20 years, since I started with the opiates. And the only thing I really remember is I was shown that I was SA'd. You know what that is. I just don't want to say it on the app. At 3 years old. And I had no idea about this at all. I thought I had a pretty, I wouldn't say normal childhood because I grew up in a semi-famous family. But I didn't know anything about this whatsoever. And it showed me it clearly. And I remember, like, at first I was in the basement and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe, look at that. I don't have this memory. This is so cool. What a cool medicine this is. And then all of a sudden it showed me the darker side. And I'm like, wow. Oh shit. And it came up kind of like a drive-in movie, and then it just erased. And I tried to get the memory back because I wanted more info. And it was like, no, it's gone.
Let's go into the Ibogaine first off. So how does that process happen? Because obviously it was a little bit different since they wanted to use you as kind of the poster boy at the time. Yeah. But what is the process whenever you start, like, you get down there, you go to the clinic, and they just do injection, or is it a whole process before that?
No. It's usually, almost all the time they're using Ibogaine hydrochloride, Ibogaine HCl. Some places use a little bit of a mix of, HCl and and root bark, and the other one, which is, I forgot the name of it now. Oh my God, it's been so long. But yeah, some places use a combination, but most places are using Ibogaine HCl. They just give it to you in a pill form, usually about like 6 or 7 pills. And next thing you know, they hook you up to EKG monitors, at least a respectful place. Not every Ibogaine place is on the up and up. But yeah, the respectful places, and the place I went to, at least, they were definitely, medically watching over me,
Yeah.
because Ibogaine can get, pretty serious.
If you're in a very dark place, do you have somebody right there with you? Like, is there somebody in the room with you? Like, what do you do if you go too dark?
It really depends on the clinic. Like some clinics are great and they'll have somebody holding your hand the whole time. Other clinics are just like looking to get as many people as they can in and out, so they're really not going to be watching over your best interest. That's why, I'm a big fan of Ibogaine, but I'm not a big fan of how it's being utilized down in Mexico, because it's too much of the wild, wild west. You don't know exactly what you're getting. You don't know what kind of clinic you're going to. You don't know. I mean, if a place isn't asking for a liver panel and EKGs and a mental health background, that's a red flag.
Were you worried at all just because it can be dangerous? Were you worried about the clinic, or were they the type they were 100% on top of everything? You weren't afraid for your safety at all?
You know what? To tell you the truth, I was so suicidal. I mean, at that time, oh shit, I shouldn't say that. So wanted to unalive at that time that I was like, whatever happens, happens. There wasn't any fear of dying at that point. When I was taking Seroquel every night, it felt like I was almost like dying right before I would go to bed, and I would just accepted it. It was like, if I wake up, I wake up. If I don't, that's okay.
How long did it take after you started taking the pills and everything? Like, did you have any withdrawal? Did it work literally instantly, or was there any after effect to it?
No, it was like about 15 minutes, and like it immediately, like the ears start buzzing. It's almost like there's a bunch of bees going in your ear. Supposedly that's the sound of the universe. I don't know. But it sounds like a bunch of bees going in your ear. I mean, after 11 hours, it definitely feels enough's enough. But like it took about 15 minutes, and I wasn't feeling my withdrawals anymore.
Wow. I mean, I guess that's an easy way to take care of things. Is there any type of like aftercare that they hook you up with, or is it just you take this, you're better, and you go?
That's what I believed, because that's what happened with me. I legitimately came back to Vegas. I even found my drug of choice the first day. I looked at it very differently, and I just didn't want it, which was very, very odd. But it wasn't only that. It's the other addictions seemed to have dropped off, because every single time I've got sober before, other addictions pop up. I might be off H, but now I'm gambling, I'm spending, sex, etc. are all popping up. With Ibogaine, everything was gone. It was bizarre. I had no desire to go gamble. I wanted to take care of my body. I wanted to take care of my brain. I wanted to detox more. I definitely wasn't over the detox part. It was, I was probably sick for like a month and a half afterwards. So it doesn't completely take away your detox. And there was no aftercare. Aftercare was like, hey kid, good luck, meditate. And it's like, what?
That sounds a little risky to me. Shipping out 10 grand to go somewhere, fly down there, and then still come home and be sick for a month or a month and a half or whatever.
Right. That's why.
Right?
For detox, I do not recommend it.
Okay.
For a detox. This is why we came up with what we do now, because this is superior. This is completely superior to Ibogaine. It's not even close, actually. And the great thing about, like, when I started in aftercare, it was very, very needed, because there was nothing. People would just go down to these Ibogaine clinics, go there for 5 days, go back home to a toxic environment, and relapse instantly. Like, not everybody was having the experience that I was having. And I started putting, the puzzles together in my head. And I'm like, there needs to be an aftercare. There needs to be a house for people, to wake up at 7:00. Sort of like a Graceland Ranch, but with morals, So, just very, very different. And we did it a lot of good, over 4 years. And a lot of people came to us from Ibogaine still very, very sick in heavy withdrawals. How would we take them out? We would use frog venom, and it would take them out of it all the time. This venom is called Combo. And it's a frog medicine. We still use it to this day with our patients that come here. It works. How does it work? I have no idea, but it works.
How were things? Because I mean, as a DJ, especially in Vegas and everything, it's like that lifestyle is in and of itself a very big drug centric area and lifestyle. Did you start losing friends and start drifting apart from all that as well, just because they want to do their thing and you don't anymore, or was that fine?
No, I was part of a crew that was very, very supportive. My best friend was pretty famous DJ named DJ AM, who ended up dying from this though, but he was my AA sponsor for years. He actually paid for my rehab. So since 2006, I was always around a very, very supportive environment. Managers, had paid for my rehabs multiple times. So everybody knew my story. Nobody was ever pushing anything on me. And if anybody was, they would be removed from the club. So, no, I was always supported. But when I got back from Ibogaine, something changed in me. And I was supposed to go and DJ hip hop at Dre's nightclub that night, which is one of the biggest nightclubs in the world. Yeah. And, I just couldn't do it. I called him up and I just wasn't feeling the music. Something different was going on with me. And it's not like I'm a choir boy or anything like that now, but just fresh out of Ibogaine, the last thing I could do was play Young Jeezy, and stuff like that in the nightclub, around that atmosphere. And I remember calling in. I was like, hey, I don't think I can come in. And they're like, huh? And I'm like, I just can't do it. I'm like, they're like, okay, when are you coming back? And I'm like, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks. And then they fired me. but I something was telling me that it's going to be okay, no matter what.
The universe was almost telling you.
Yep.
Okay.
That's one thing a lot of people say whenever they do get sober too, is strangely enough, the taste in music and everything can completely change. So the fact that you were a DJ too, it's just you had a different connection with music in general. So it probably changed a lot of your identity it is.
Yeah. I mean, can I play, a hip hop set now? No problem. Sure. Yeah. It doesn't bother me one bit, but fresh out of Ibogaine, whoa, no. I was listening to gospel music and I'm a Jewish kid,
Oh.
So, but I was yeah, praise God, that, driving around like that. And so the last thing I wanted to do is go into the club and, and feel vibrations of that type of music that I normally played.
I still can't get over the fact that DJ AM was your sponsor. That's crazy.
We were very, very close. Paid for my rehab.
Wow.
I've watched a couple little mini docs about him and everything. And from everything I saw, he struggled for a very long time. So I didn't actually know he got to the point where he was sponsoring people. I thought he passed before that happened.
Oh no. He sponsored probably over 100, people or more. He was dedicated to recovery, dedicated. It didn't matter what city he went to, he was always hitting a meeting up,
Wow.
That's interesting how little none of the docs or anything I've seen about him, none of them talk about that. It's always about the use. That's that's so sad.
He, I'm going to get emotional talking about him. But when I was in rehab originally, to get off methadone and Xanax, he not only paid for it, because I was broke at that time, and I was about 128 pounds at that time, just like absolute mess. And he would show up at this rehab in LA all the time to read to me. Like, who does that? You know, like, who does that? That's kind of why I do what I do now.
You had the right support system around you. That's great, because I feel like, especially in that environment, it could have been even harder to come out of it, and especially to turn it around and do everything that you've done. It's a great story, man.
The only thing we disagree with, probably up it, and well, now that he's in heaven, he might have a different attitude, is I'm very, very critical of 12-step. Like, I went for years and years and years, and then when I came back from Ibogaine, I couldn't wait to get back to my home group. And I walked in, and just like with the same thing with the hip hop music, I was listening to the message, and I was like, I am not going to get better here. I have to figure this out myself. I was like, but I'm not going to get better in a room of people that are still sick. And I'm not saying that all people in 12-step are sick, but there are, some pretty people that are unhealed, in the rooms. I guess I'll just use that term. And I knew I had to do something different. Instead of keep coming back, I was listening to the insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And that's when I was sitting in the parking lot after I walked out of the meeting that I had been a part of for 10 years. And I was like, what do I do?
Wow.
What do I do?
That had to be very tough for you because, but at the same time, you were being pulled you felt like you just needed to trust your instincts for once.
Yeah, for once.
Right, for once.
Once, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so, I started doing yoga. I started hiking. I started juicing. Doing infrared saunas, hyperbaric chambers, IV vitamins, stuff like that. And what do you know? Like, I started getting better and better. And then I actually, instead of a sponsor, I started seeing a therapist. And through the process of EMDR, past life regressions, stuff like that, I've definitely become a very, very different person. And over the last 10 and a half years, I've used other psychedelics and facilitated other psychedelic ceremonies. So,
can you talk about the EMDR real quick? Sure. Like, how many have you done it for a while? I'm currently in EMDR.
Okay. There's two ways to do it. There's eyes, and I just did paddles for the first time. I've never done that before. By using the paddles, for some reason, something kind of clicked in me. The only thing, when it comes to recovery, I don't even see myself in recovery anymore. I see myself as at least recovered from substance opioid use disorder, but I'm definitely recovering still from a lot of the behaviors associated with it. Okay. I don't call them defects of character either. I feel like that's a little condescending. But I do understand that I still have general anxiety disorder. I still have ADHD, and I am, trying to get over it the best I can, and at least for me, whatever I'm doing right now seems to be working,
The anxiety is one of the big things that has affected me after, getting sober and everything. It just, the social anxiety took over like crazy, and it took, I'm still dealing with it, but it took a long time to understand. And actually Betty, who's in the comments, she's a life coach, and she kind of just told me to write down every time I got anxious what was going on, what the weather was outside, literally everything. And I started to realize through doing that actually social media was part of the problem with my anxiety, because I was too busy trying to cater to what everybody else wanted instead of being me. And it translated into normal life, and it was a huge thing. So I get the anxiety side. It sucks.
It sucks. You know what though? The great thing is it used to be this, how can I describe, almost like a grizzly bear knocking on the door, that would send me into panic attacks and put me in the hospital. It used to be that bad. It's still there, but it's more of like a field mouse knocking on the door, like a little, like, hey, I'm still here, but it's just not crippling like it was before, due to like EMDR, psychedelic work, stuff like that.
I've been watching a lot about like cold plunges and stuff and how much it helps reset you for the day and everything. Is there any one thing that you felt helped more than others? Because I know a lot of people on here kind of suffer with this. So if there's something that kind of boosted it or like made things get better quicker, do you have anything for that?
Okay, right now, I've gone through different stages, but right now I am obsessed with NADplus, but not just NADplus, BR, NADplus, the kind that we're using, which is brain restoration, NADplus. I feel like it's done more for me than almost everything kind of like put together. Go ahead.
Can you explain for people that don't know what that is? Like, can you break it down?
Sure. Okay, we all have NADplus in our bodies. Okay, without NADplus, we wouldn't be living for another 30 seconds. It's what gives our cells energy. Okay, and due to, let's say, using substances or drinking alcohol or, let's say, long hauler COVID or aging, our NAD levels start to deplete and go down. By the age of 40, they're starting to decrease. By the age of 50, we have about half of the NAD in our body. That's why, I have some gray on my face right now, and I'm starting to wrinkle, et cetera, et cetera. But due to me supplementing NAD plus into my diet, I feel about 20 years younger. I'm not kidding. Like I can go to the gym and work out as hard as I want, and I don't get injuries the same way I did. I have chronic pain in my back. It's been kept to like a 0 to about a 1, at the most sometimes. But I have a really, really bad car accident that gave me herniated discs, and nothing worked for me like NAD. And so it's done wonders on my physical and my mental. So I guess if I had to praise anything, it would be NAD plus. Yeah. And NAD plus is what we're using to detox people. It's not ketamine.
So can the regular people get access to it?
Yes.
Okay. And how could they do so?
All right. Don't buy NAD plus on the internet. Whatever you do, do not buy NAD plus. Look for BR. NAD plus. It's night and day. It's like comparing a Rolls Royce to a Ford Fiesta. You can't, we couldn't use regular NAD plus to do the detoxes that we do. We have to use BR, NAD plus. To buy BR, NAD plus, you have to be a physician, or you can look for the bottles online. Sometimes people have them here and there. I can sell them because I'm a doctor's liaison. But if you go to their website, realnad.com, they're the most legit brand. And you might be able to purchase sublingual tablets, but the IVs that we have here, you have to come into the office to get.
Okay.
So why is it only a doctor can prescribe this if it's something that potentially could be very, very life-changing? Is it just regulated because of that? Yeah.
There's so much like that I'm like, I don't know. Like for some reason, hold on. Here's a big one. We aren't covered by insurance because we give the most effective way of giving ketamine, which is IV. IV by an anesthesiologist is the most effective way. What is covered by insurance is the nasal spray, which is not nearly as effective as IV. Any self-respecting drug addict knows that, right. That's kind of obvious. But again, it's like one of those, what? I just don't get it,
Where does ketamine come into play with this? Because so you use NAD as kind of a
agent.
Yeah. And then ketamine's the reset more than anything. Kind of? Okay.
Multiple reasons to use the ketamine. And this is where like the co-creation with me and Dr. Leong happened. Multiple reasons. One, NAD by itself is incredibly uncomfortable, and it would take about 10 hours to get into the person. I was the guinea pig. I tried it with nothing, and it took about 11 hours to get 1,000 milligrams into me, and it was very uncomfortable. So I said to him, I'm like, hey, can we do something, to numb me? You're an anesthesiologist, work your magic. And he's like, oh yeah, ketamine, and then I can give you a little of this, a little of that. And I'm like, and then I tried it again. It was an hour and a half, and it was pleasant. And I'm like, we have, I think one of the best things to happen in the field of recovery right now with this. And it's been 4 years now. We've been able to detox people off everything. You name it, we've been able to detox people off it.
How does ketamine actually work in the detox process? And because what I know about ketamine, so it helps with like depression and PTSD and everything. So whenever it blocks those receptors, it allows everything else to kind of, I guess, grow. Is it just blocking I don't know how to put this, just blocking like those negative side effects and then the rest kind of comes with it, if that makes sense? Or is it actually resetting everything to stop?
No, I don't think there's any proof of any kind of resetting. It's definitely helped neural pathways regrow.
Right.
Definitely. But, it is, the great thing about ketamine is it's addressing the reasons why when people leave rehab, the reasons why they relapse usually is main reasons: depression, anxiety, unresolved PTSD, and the biggest is cravings. So ketamine works on all 4 of those, which is absolutely brilliant to be using in the detox process. When I talk to sometimes, traditional rehabs about this, they just, they look at me like I'm absolutely crazy. They're like, what? Why would you be using that? We don't understand. What? It's mind altering. And we're like, we understand that. But, and the next good question would be, do people become ketamine addicts?
That's what I was about to ask about Matthew Perry's death.
Great question, right? I'm kind of reading your mind here. The answer is no, and I'll tell you why. When ketamine is done properly, with an anesthesiologist like this, and they're administering it, and they're giving you 6 full sessions over a 2 to 3 week period, it is doing such a number on your depression, on your anxiety, that nobody who is this happy wants to sit around the house in a K-hole, and then be dizzy for hours afterwards. No, like happy people are out doing yoga and like hiking and getting out into the world and being with their families and cooking at their barbecue. Nobody's sitting around jumping into a K-hole that's depression free, and that's basically it. No, we've never ever seen that or heard of it afterwards.
So they give you a little so I know I've heard of people getting like microdoses of ketamine to bring home. So how does that work? Like, do you give that as aftercare?
We do with some patients. When it comes to substance use disorder, opioid, alcohol use disorder, we can sometimes, but it really depends on the patient. There's different levels to this, and everybody is so different. Some people are going to be incredibly responsible with their medicine, almost like they're OCD with it. And then there's other people that are just like, I'll take a little of this, a little, and we got to be very careful with who gets lozenges. But for the most part, though, when people start to feel any kind of depression, anxiety, or desire to use, that's when we recommend a booster dose. That means just 1 dose, and that kind of resets them and brings them back to that place. So for me, for instance, I was treated for PTSD about 7 years ago. I got it nonstop for a year. I would go once every month and a half or something like that. Now, my last ketamine infusion was maybe the first month of COVID, like about March 2020. There's just no need for it anymore. My brain definitely feels different now.
You do the sessions, you do all that, and then you don't have to go back like 3 months later and then do it again 3 months later. Is it going to have certain long-term effects continuously, or is that going to stop after a certain point?
No, everybody's different, but the whole point of it is getting you to the point where you don't have to come back. Does that mean also every doctor that is doing ketamine has integrity, like the one I work with? No. Like people that are giving you, say, like one infusion a week, 52 times a year, there's something wrong there. You should be getting 6 up front. Like, I mean, some people come to us and they're like, oh, I got 52 last year. And we're like, what? You know, like that's absolutely insane. Like with us, the majority of the patients, say if they're being treated for depression, anxiety, PTSD, they would get 6 ketamine infusions within the first 2 to 3 weeks, followed by boosters. So maybe another 3 or 4 throughout the year. So that's 10 compared to, say, 52. You know, like, thank God he's the only type of doctor I could end up working with because he does have integrity. Go ahead.
Is there a difference between going to like one of those health spas for ketamine? I get these ads all the time. I'm for the people in the comments as well, because how is that regulated?
I think almost any doctor can administer it off label. Does that mean they should? I don't think so, you know, but an anesthesiologist is very, very different because they've been working with this medicine their entire career. This is what they use in the OR. Ketamine is such a safe medicine also that it's also used on children in the ER because it's so safe.
Why would someone choose that over something like, for instance, Brixadi, Sublocade? Like, I'm just curious what your answer to this question is.
Okay. I think Sublocade is brilliant. I think Suboxone is brilliant. I think Methadone is brilliant. Sometimes it's hard for people to switch, though. You know, I think there's amazing ways to go about it. Some people also, you know, they just want to be off everything. You know, I don't question, you know, when people come to us and I do tell them about Sublocade injections. I tell them about everything because we're a very, very mom and pop business. We can only take like maybe 2 or 3 detox patients at a time. So I also want to make sure that the people that are coming here are the right candidates. You know, they're not the people that still have their dealer's number. You know, there are people that are just done, you know, and just need to take that final step. But like I'm pro MAT. I think this and MATs are the best thing to happen in the field of recovery over the last 100 years. You know, but MATs save lives. So that's why, you know, that's one of the main reasons I'm a little bit critical of 12-step, you know, just because I frown on the whole non-mind altering thing, and the anti-medication thing. I don't think is helping. I think it's causing a lot of harm. So yeah, if you're in 12-step, please try to make change within, you know, the rooms. You know, let people know that are on Suboxone that they are in recovery. They can pick up their chips. You know, if you're on Suboxone or Sublocade and you're not using, bravo, you're in recovery. You're in recovery. You're clean. You know, or I hate that word. Sorry, I didn't even mean to use that because clean infers that we were dirty before. I wasn't dirty. You know, when I was using.
No,
I was
it is. Sometimes it's hard to let go of that lingo that we've been taught for years. I do it as well.
I do it all the time.
Listen, we're not going to be perfect.
Yeah, I know. I've been doing it. You know, I left 10.5 years ago, but I'm still, you know, a lot of it is still in my head. Actually, here's how much. When I had to get opiates. 3 years ago, I got into a bad car accident and I had to get opiates in the trauma unit. My old programming was going in my head. 1 is too many, 1,000 never enough. Once you get a taste, you're not going to stop until rock bottom. And I was scared shitless, you know. And then they went in me, you know, and they actually hit me with morphine and Dilaudid. And it wasn't the same feeling. You know, that I used to get oh God, you know, a relaxing feeling. I was itching, you know, and something just didn't feel right in my body. I knew right there that a lot of this programming was not only wrong, but could do a lot of harm to people. You know, if you believe, you know, that once you put anything in you, you're not going to be able to stop until you actually hit rock bottom, that could be a little bit harmful.
Well, and I have so many people, and I know Marie does too, that like they have a surgery coming up or something, and they're supposed to get pain meds, and they are so afraid to take them that like they would rather go through the pain instead of just take the meds. It doesn't mean you're going to get hooked on them again. You just need some sort of like aftercare, someone to
accountability.
Yeah,
you need accountability.
Not only that, but there's no evidence to my belief or anything like that. But I really believe that once you've healed that root issue of why, you know, there isn't, at least like with me, there's no part of me that wants to be inebriated. You know, and I'm not against the buzz or anything like that, like a little bit of a buzz, like every here and there. Sure. But like, there's no part of me that
you're making me really want to try the, you know, one of those treatments, at least ketamine, because I've tried so many different things and I just feel like I need to get to the core issue and just face it head on and be done. That's where I'm at mentally.
Yeah. Like I said, I believe that's the reason why I can, for instance, I just had to confiscate hundreds of my drug of choice, hundreds of real ones. Okay. And there's no small part of me that's like, ooh, maybe I'll take one and have a little party tonight. No, I just don't want this in my system anymore. And why do I believe that is happening? Is because of the work that I've done.
I agree.
To heal that small child, you know.
So I don't know if you've had this yet, but where does this come into play whenever it comes to the nitazines and trank and all that? Is it still going to be effective for that stuff?
We didn't know. We took our first trank patient a year ago, and we've never seen anything like it. It was the worst withdrawal so far that we've ever seen, but he's never exceeded moderate. Never went into like anything considered like heavy type withdrawals at all. Never exceeded that. But it was very different, you know, than everybody else. Like there was a lot of vomiting almost like instantly on the first day. We normally don't get that. As soon as they get NAD in them, it's almost just like it starts working away. But with xylazine, it was very different. So we also had to change our protocol up a little bit. I'm not going to give it away completely, but yeah, we had to. Xylazine is a clonidine analog. Yeah. So we're tinkering here, you know, and supplementing with a clonidine patch, oxygen therapy. And I mean, it's a different monster. And, you know, when I put out videos, you know, this is our first xylazine patient. So many people have been commenting, there's no protocol. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we're doing it. What do you want me to say? Right. You know, like even I just picked up our patient at a traditional rehab and he was in psychosis 2 days ago, like straight up psychosis. Okay. Walking into walls, thinking that everybody's trying to kill him. And I basically grabbed him, almost put him over my shoulder and carried him into the car to the clinic because I know we're going to be able to take him out.
Yep.
And what do you know? I swear, 2 hours later, we're driving home and he's like, Justin, can you play that Bob Marley, I Can See Clearly Now song? And I'm like, one, it's not Bob Marley, it's Johnny Nash. And yes, I will take care of it right away. Wow. And he's driving home and he is singing this song. And he's been out of psychosis ever since he's finishing up. I might have to go soon because he's finishing up right now. But he's been out of psychosis since.
That's amazing.
His family's in there right now with him as he's getting infused.
The thing I think a lot of people are worried about with the nitazines is there are so many different offshoots of nitazine. Like you can make it any way and each one has its own different effect. So is there possibly going to be some streamlined thing that could be done, or do you think it's going to be the Wild West?
I think it's going to be the Wild West.
Yeah.
And I also, one thing though about what we're doing right now, we're trying our hardest to put this all over the country to try to get insurance. Dr. Young is part of clinical trials right now, but we're trying our hardest. We understand, that most people don't have $15,000 to pay for a detox out of their pocket. I want to get this out to the masses. That's why I got involved with it, not to become a fucking, rich off, patients that are suffering. I got involved with this in order to get this out to as many people as possible, get the message out that no, you do not have to have fear about a detox. I had such fear over a detox that I was ready to unalive.
Yeah.
That's why I do this. And come up with these different ways. Also, one thing about Dr. Leung, he does not judge. So we're in a legal state. If somebody wants to use something like RSO oil or edibles to help them sleep, or CBD or CBN, guess what? They can. Guess what I also use for the first 2 days sometimes when it's, especially, I started this with the xylazine people. Kratom.
Okay.
Kava extract. And some people are going, whoa, how could you do that? Because we have compassion and it works. That's why.
Do you know of, if you're using Kratom, do you know of any negative side effects? Because a lot of us have tried Kratom, and I don't want to put it as a negative side effect thing. There have been a lot of people who have used it as a longer term thing, which I know you aren't, but those people have experienced like bladder issues and I think hair loss was one of the big ones. Has anyone had any issues, or do you know of any for sure issues, since it's not something that's been studied?
The only thing I know this for sure is you take too much and you're going to get addicted.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, we've detoxed people, but it's actually one of the easiest detoxes for us. The easiest detoxes for us is actually alcohol. You would think that's not true because alcohol is so deadly to detox from, but not with us. It's very, very simple with us. But with Kratom, that's another simple one too. We had a guy who came to us, I think he was on 5 of the OPMS shots a day. That's a decent amount. That's like $100 worth of Kratom a day. So that's a lot. And he felt, I don't even know if he got to mild on the clinical opiate withdrawal scale. So
I mean, that's impressive, because Kratom withdrawal, I guess I experienced it a little bit because I was experimenting with it, trying to get off of subs early on. And I feel like it helps. The biggest thing is the pain patients that can't get their opiates from the doctor right now. Kratom has been a saving grace for those people. And I think everyone still worries about getting hooked on it and all this stuff. But it's like, if you're only taking a little bit, it's not going to matter.
No, we've never seen that ever, and I've had, I've been working with alternative medicines like this for almost a decade. And I've never seen anybody using it responsibly. My own mom uses it once a day. She has her 4 o'clock, 4:30 time that she makes herself a teacup, and it takes her neck pain away. She just turned 80 years old, and no issue. No, not at all. Nor is it addictive or anything like that at that point. Not at all. No.
Since you're into the psychedelics, have you tried psilocybin for microdosing for depression and everything?
Use it right now. Like, not today. I was just about to today, but I've been working with it for years. Yeah, I go on and off, so sometimes I'll do it for about like 2 months, and then I'll take a couple months off and then go back for like 2 months. But yeah, I was the type that was on about 6 or 7 different psych meds, bunch of different diagnoses going on, and I don't need anything now. I'm not against psych meds.
So I have chronic pain. So ketamine works that well for pain. Like, how many infusion? How much do you need before you notice a difference in pain?
Everybody's different, but it's really honest for me. The NAD. Ketamine would give me like a little bit of relief, and then it would come back. NAD has been pain-free for almost 3 years now.
Wow.
So it's the NAD is is the medicine. The NAD is what we need to mass produce. You know, if we want to control the opioid epidemic, this is the best way to get people off, and not only that, and then keep them off.
Now, for the people that can't do like NADplus and can't do ketamine infusions and everything, are there any other things that you would suggest to kind of bring that along? Because there's so many chemicals that like your brain makes and stuff that you can get a pill form and it can make a big difference, but it's hard to find all those.
Here's my number one go-to. Okay, it's Kambo. KAMBO. Okay, how do you find a Kambo practitioner? You Google IAKP. You might want to write that down. Okay. International Association of Kambo Practitioners. And then you'll be able to find somebody in your area. That if they're IAKP trained, that means I know the kind of training that they've gone through in order to get to this level. And I know exactly what kind of medicine they're using. We only use IAKP people. But that medicine, I mean, if I didn't have that at my Ibogaine aftercare, we would have never had the success that we had, just because people were so heavily going through such heavy withdrawals when they got to me that they would have left right away. I had one kid who was like, "Get me on meth," like screaming the whole ride home from Mexico. And I finally this is when I had a little bit more of a tough love approach. I don't anymore. But I was like, listen to me good. I was like, I'm going to have you feeling good in 2 days. Give me 2 days. And if not, I'm like, I'll give you money for a bus ticket and I'll give you dope money, you know? And that's kind of the truth. Wow. And 2 days later, he came up to my room. I made the mistake of living in the rehab. Never do that. He came up to my room and he was like, "Dude, I trust you." He's like, "I feel great." I was like, wow. And the only reason, I mean, there's many different things we were using on him, but the main one was Kambo. Huh. You know, it's the peptides in the Kambo. And there's also, I think there's opiates in the Kambo, or opioids in the Kambo also, but ones that are re-addicting you, no, not at all. Ones that are more like pain relieving.
How do you get all this stuff? Is there a like designated supplier for all of this, or is it just any pharmaceutical?
At least like with the Kambo medicine, the best way that I know how is contacting IAKP online, and you'll see find a practitioner. You punch in your area code; it'll tell you who's available.
Where does Macaulay come into all of this? So is he like the aftercare? They sit in the chair, they're getting their treatments over the course of, days, weeks.
Macaulay,
they go there?
Is just like, he was just this awesome dude that came on my TikTok live one night, and I'm like, wow. And then we started talking, and I'm like, I feel like this is like another me. Like we have a lot of the same beliefs. And I mean, almost identical. And then I think it was about half a year ago, I had a patient that showed up with no caretaker. They were so out of their minds. You have to bring somebody with you. We're outpatient, so somebody has to drive you and watch over you. He didn't have anybody, and he had the money. So I just said, hey, I hit up Macaulay that day. I texted him. I'm like, hey, can you get on a plane, please, and come here and take care of this guy, and I'll take care of you financially. And he's like, sure. So he came out here, and not only did he do a good job, he did like an outstanding job. And caretaking is honestly one of the hardest jobs in the world. There's hard jobs out there. Caretaking, it's draining, like really, really draining. And I mean, you have to play so many different roles. You have to, be a maid, do laundry, be able to cook for them, be able to clean, keep a neat place, organize their meds, deal with them when they're acting out, so you have to, it takes a special kind of person. And to tell you the truth, I have fired everybody. I have fired every single person so far that has worked with me. That I will not, like, just because I have such a high bar that I've set. And, you know, if I walk in and I see a messy house, goodbye. You know, like, no, this is a medical container, you know, and we need to keep it clean like a medical container. That means I want to see these counters bleached, you know. So Macaulay was the first person who went above and beyond. And I was observing him the whole time. And after that, I decided that, yeah, not only do I not want to fire him, he's not even somebody that I look at, you know, as like an employee.
A friend, probably.
You know, I look at him as more just like a partner in this, a coworker, you know, in this. Sure. He goes above and beyond for these patients, and he's the real deal, which you don't see much. But when he came out here and he saw what we were doing, he was absolutely blown away. He couldn't believe how quickly the light comes on with these people, like 4 or 5 days, and all of a sudden they're happy, they're feeling good, they're energetic. The people here are sleeping.
I want to come
sleeping
for a vacation.
It turns into a vacation. I'm not exaggerating. About day 4, day 5, it turns into a vacation for these people.
I watched that YouTube video that you sent. So can you tell them about your YouTube channel just so they can maybe check out the video after this? Because I thought it was amazing, all the things that you guys offer.
I closed that, though. Just to make it clear, that's closed. I don't work with Ibogaine. I don't work with Ibogaine anymore. I don't do aftercare for Ibogaine anymore. Okay. But yeah, sure. Take a look at what we're doing. You know, but what I've done is just kind of improve on what I was doing before. It's not that I'm against Ibogaine at all, but for a detox, you know, being in a doctor's office and getting a medicine like NAD is just night and day. You know, like night and day. Like people that are coming off Suboxone or methadone are not going to have pause, post-acute withdrawal.
Yep.
The same way they would with Ibogaine. When they leave us, pause are down to a minimal, if any, and then we give them NAD tablets, and they take those.
That's what I was wondering for the longer acting things too, like benzos and all that. That's why whenever you said alcohol is one of the easiest, I was kind of surprised because it's weird that it helps for that longer term stuff, because benzos, that can last for a month and a half or longer. Does it still kind of keep you stable that entire time, or does it ebb and flow a little bit?
No. Once you're kind of over the hump, like this guy is right now, and I mean, he could have been taking 10 or more milligrams of like of Xanax a night. We really don't know. And once he's over the hump, he starts to get better and better and better. Whereas in traditional rehab, when you get off benzos, you get worse and worse and worse and worse as it goes. Like I just saw, I won't say the sober living, but I just saw like one of the representatives talking about benzos and saying, oh yeah, talking to somebody on the phone and saying, oh, you're a week off benzos? Okay, you're good. You're good. No, you're not good. You're not good for maybe a year.
Right. It lasted so long for me. I thought it was never going to end.
Like, it just like, you know, the one thing I really believe in the field of recovery, we need to stop equating time in a recovery program with knowledge about substance use disorder. Okay. They're two different things. You learned how to do it one way, to pray it away, et cetera, which I have absolutely no problem with. I actually pray. I believe in God. I just don't tell other people to do it my way, you know, ever. I like to find what works for them. We have one patient right now who's very God-oriented, and guess what? I'm going to recommend AA for him. We have another patient who definitely isn't. I'm just going to recommend therapy for her. You know,
because it's all individualized based off of someone's needs. 100%. Everyone's different. Their genetics are different. Yep. Everything's different.
Beliefs are different.
Right.
So, And you know what? Even though I'm critical of AA, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to send somebody there that's a perfect fit.
Yep.
You know, this guy will love it. I know it. You know, it'll be his community. It'll be his support system. He's going to find new friends to do, you know, sober things with. The other person, they would not do well in that type of environment, you know, social anxiety also. So I'm going to recommend individual therapy, you know, for her instead. Everybody's completely different. And that's the way we need to start treating patients, you know, with substance use disorder.
How do we streamline all of this? I mean, obviously, I know you want to, and I know that's a very broad answer to give, but
how do we replicate Dr. Leung is the question. Because where are you going to find doctors with integrity, with compassion, that aren't judging you? Like when we get a patient back, okay, like that relapsed, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't judge him. He doesn't say, well, you better do it. He doesn't do anything. He just says, how can I help?
Yep.
That's more the question is like, and how do you replicate somebody like Macaulay?
Yep.
Okay. Or not to praise myself, but like, or me, you know, that can come in and handle these emergency situations and know exactly what to do.
I think that's kind of what's happened with detox centers and recovery centers in general is you have those ones that are really good, that are making things happen. And like the one that I went to, I thought it was excellent, but the people were excellent. And then you have all these bad ones that are literally just getting people hooked and costing you money. And it's finding that balance is impossible.
Sure. I'm missing some of these questions, but I see my friend Nadine saying, I'm not the doctor. I'm not, guys. I'm an ex-patient, actually. Somebody who struggled with opiate addiction for 17 years. A pretty good hip hop DJ, but a doctor, no, just somebody who can think outside of the box and came up with a good idea.
I think a lot of people don't get with stuff like this too. A lot of people who started programs like this were addicted, and that's kind of where the background comes from. And you learn all your stuff from the doctors that you hire and you bring in and stuff like that. I feel like most people that run any clinics like this are not actually doctors.
If it's anything like what we're doing, I can't imagine working with anybody that's not only not a doctor, but an anesthesiologist. You know, for our ketamine infusions, I think we charge maybe a little bit more than the average around here. But those places aren't using anesthesiologists, and they're not able to take you as deep down the rabbit hole and do it safely, which is what we do. We base how much we're going to give, how much ketamine we're going to give people first on their weight, but also on their past history of psychedelics. If they have, you know, a pretty well-rounded history of psychedelics, we can hit them a little bit harder. If they've never done anything before, we want to go slow.
And if I was going through something like that, I would want the doctor that's the most knowledge, which would be an anesthesiologist.
Right.
Like,
just makes sense.
You don't want to go to a plastic surgeon. You want a board certified plastic surgeon. Like, there's differences.
There's differences, yes. And the thing is, though, I want to get this really across. Please, guys, if you're looking into ketamine therapy, if the doctor isn't giving you IV and they aren't doing 6 over a 2 to 3 week period, you are getting an inferior version of what ketamine therapy really can be. Now, here's also the golden ticket, is we are mixing the BR NAD with it, even for depression, anxiety patients now. And what we're seeing is the frequency of them having to come back has changed drastically. Instead of once a month or 5-6 weeks, it's more like 3 months. It's the NAD that's doing it.
Have you thought about like kind of growing things and getting some like therapists that you work with and stuff? That way, once they're NAD therapy is done, they go into this little detox or whatever, and then they can get a therapist, they can get whatever like extra help they need.
You're so on the money. So before COVID, me and the doctor and I, we had a 7 bedroom mansion that we were going to put all of the patients in and do exactly what you just said, but also do cold plunges, also do flotation tanks, also do infrared sauna treatment, do hyperbaric oxygen chambers, everything inside of there. Basically kind of like what I was doing with the Ibogaine aftercare, but with this instead. The problem was COVID hit 1 month before our opening date. So I had been working on opening this for a year. COVID hit and everything was unsure. So we had to switch to people just going the Airbnb. Now that we were looking at investors and people possibly getting involved with this, instead of just getting a house, we're probably going to just open one gigantic center with everything under one roof, including the infusions, including where they stay, including yoga rooms, sound healing rooms, everything like that. So incorporate basically all of it.
How do they get in touch with you? Like if somebody wants to get in touch with you to reach out to get established care.
Okay. Right on my page, and in the bio, there's a phone number right there. That actually just goes directly to me. Like we are not a corporation of any kind whatsoever. It's me and the doctor and Catherine. That's it. So if the phone rings, I'm picking it up. I'm talking to you and we'll talk about this. Now the only negative about what we do is that we cannot take insurance yet. Just because we invented this. So there's no data, there's no science, there's no studies. But if you go through our TikToks over the last year and a half, there's many, many patients that I'm interviewing and they're all reporting the same thing. They're sleeping, they're eating, and not only that, but we treat them like humans. We don't take their phones. We don't take their laptops away. We treat them like human beings, not like prisoners,
I still want to maybe do something like that because I'm getting really experimental whenever it comes to this stuff. And of course, I don't need it for detox anymore, but the kind of resetting things is super interesting to me because I don't know how much I messed up in the long run using all of the drugs that I used. I was wondering what level kind of the ketamine was at. You get them to that K-hole point kind of, and then let them fall out. Okay.
Yeah, we want them. We call it disassociating. Right. But yes, that's exactly what it is, K-hole. And I mean, I did it recreationally back in my DJ days. Okay, it is nothing like doing it in the doctor's office. Like I thought I went deep down the rabbit hole before, not even close to like the doctor's office. And then people are probably saying, gee, don't you get addicted to that? It must be so fun. I can get a free ketamine treatment whenever I want. I just don't. Because I don't want to spend the whole day just like, because after I do it, I'm going to be, feeling like I just came out of surgery for 3 hours afterwards. So it's not worth it to me.
We are running low on time, and if you're game, I wanted to see if you had any really good DJ stories.
You know what? I still DJ for Top Rank Boxing. So I still get to play places like Madison Square Garden, like a couple of times a year. And yeah, I'm incredibly lucky, but I mean, there's so many. I can't even like nail down one, but I mean, just imagine I was one of the first major club DJs in Las Vegas back in 1999 when I got here. And, played at 3 of the biggest probably clubs in the world. So it was a pretty wild time, it was definitely a wild time. But, when I did meet DJ AM, things in my life completely changed. Yeah. If you haven't seen his documentary, watch it. It's called As I Am, The Life and Times of DJ AM. Watch it. Absolutely amazing. And I don't know. Yeah, there's too many stories, and some of them
you don't even remember half of it.
To tell you the truth, you're right.
Right.
And after Ibogaine, like Ibogaine doesn't just erase trauma. There's some memories, I guess, that you don't need, that Ibogaine just kind of like flushes out. There's some things that like I have like holes, you know, from a lot of back in those days. Like I don't remember.
So it like deletes the file out of your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, any file that you don't need, basically, anymore. It just cleans out the junk.
That's
You
cool.
know, so I definitely recommend Ibogaine, just not as a detox, as more of a psycho-spiritual or to heal trauma. It's a brilliant medicine as long as you're doing it with, you know, a proper provider. How do you find a proper provider? Definitely don't go to Google and go to the first page, because those are the clinics that are spending the most money to try to get you there. Don't go to clinics that are making wild promises. Don't go to clinics that are using multiple different psychedelics over a week's period time. That's a good way to fry your brain. You know, there's clinics that are like, we give you Ibogaine, ayahuasca, 5-MeO, combo. And it's like, yeah, that's too much, you know, too much.
They don't even care though. They'll load you up on all of that and tell you good luck, send you out on the street.
Yeah, good luck. I can't tell you how many people I picked, because I picked up everybody directly myself in Mexico. But there's a lot of the times that I drove directly to the psych ward.
Wow.
From the Ibogaine clinic, directly to the psych ward. And sometimes it was just as simple as dehydration and no sleep. It's like, you know, give them, if they're not sleeping, give them a Xanax, knock them out.
That's reckless, in my opinion. That's extremely reckless.
It's reckless. That's why. And also, I have a mouth on me, so I was very quick to speak up about a lot of this. But then if you speak up about one clinic in a negative way, guess what? It might come back to you.
Yeah.
So now I just learned my lesson to let karma handle everything, and I don't need to play the Ibogaine police or the rehab police or any of that anymore, you know? And yeah, when it comes to Ibogaine, just be careful about where you're going. Talk to a dozen people that went there, you know, a dozen, not just one or two, you know, talk to a lot of people that went there.
I don't know if I can get behind Ibogaine just because of how many bad ones there are. That's the bad thing, because I get it. I love it, but there's so much risk just because there's so much bull crap out there.
Yes, I also picked up 2 people one time that had just been kidnapped.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
During their Ibogaine session, so they were tripping, and these guys came in and robbed them of everything while they were tripping.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun.
It's traumatizing, to say the least.
Right, they left.
Thank God they came to my place afterwards, because they were like this when they got into my car, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's why until it's like a little bit less of the wild, wild west, it's hard for me to get behind it, you know?
Yeah, that's crazy. But thanks for taking the time, man. I know obviously you were super busy today, and we had some very generic questions on there, but everybody wants to know, and there's not a lot of information about this.
In getting treatment, just feel free to reach out to me, and I get back like right away. So, all right, if I don't pick up right there.
Good luck with your patients, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.